Yo, 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 yo. What's up, everybody? What's good? This is the Sunday, August 6th, 2023 episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. This is the host, James Bell, the leader of the Boxing Source on social media. You can follow us on social media platforms, Twitter, or whatever it's called this week, Twitter, X, whatever it is. You got a Facebook page. We got the Instagram page. No, we don't have a Threads page. We haven't, jumped onto that Threads thing yet, so you don't even have to worry about all that. Okay. And for those that haven't done so already, you can subscribe to the Boxing Source channel here on YouTube. We really appreciate it. Appreciate all the support here for those that have been part of the Boxing Source family. Just getting it in here, man. I mean, we got a number of things here, that we're going to be talking about, man. I mean, this is something where, I'd say, hey, man, August 12th, we were supposed to have, a heavyweight fight over in the UK, headlined by, former unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte having a rematch finally after, all these years, since their previous encounter where Anthony Joshua ended up knocking out Dillian Whyte. But as of a day ago, pretty much August 5th, we got the notice here from Matchroom, announcing that this particular fight is canceled. Hey, I mean, I got the email, what it was, at least on Eastern time, like 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, that the Volunteer Anti-Doping Association, hit up Matchroom, hit up the Association of Boxing Commissions, and hit up the British Boxing Board of Control that Dillian Whyte had returned adverse analytical findings as part of a random anti-doping protocol. And in light of the news, the fight is canceled and a full investigation will be conducted. Now, I mean, this is, Dillian Whyte, man. I mean, he's been known to fail drug tests before. A number of boxing fans know about what happened with his findings that took place before the fight against Oscar Rivas. But at that particular time, they still went ahead and went forward with that fight against Oscar Rivas. But this time here around, with this being what I guess his third time that he's tested with an adverse finding or testing positive or whatever it is, this particular fight is scrapped. And this was, one of those bigger events that they were going to have take place there in the UK, and for this to happen at this point, 1 week before this fight was supposed to take place. I mean, that was crazy. Of course, both Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte had been coming off of decision wins over Jermaine Franklin, and this is the thing here with Dillian Whyte. This is basically strike three, right? You had his first test was years ago, about 11 years ago, as he failed a post-fight drug test. And then what happened with, like I said, with Oscar Rivas in 2019. And I'm like, man, listen, this is basically it for Dillian Whyte. It should be it for Dillian Whyte because he had all these chances. You were able to, get to a certain point of your professional career, where you fought to be a contender, had some minor titles there in the heavyweight division. Once you're pretty much on the brink of, becoming a champion or fighting for a world title, then you drop the ball. And of course, we know what happened with him and Alexander Povetkin. So, there's all that. But I think hopefully we may have something here, man. Got a guest to jump in on the Dillian Whyte conversation. Here we go, man. Wilder KO1. What's happening? Hey, yo, hear me? Yo, I ain't getting much feedback from you, man. I don't hear no audio. All I hear is static, yo.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hey man, hopefully I don't get flagged.
I had to check in on this one because I was so delighted when I heard the news Saturday morning that
Vindication.
my my favorite punching bag, the donkey, Dillian Whyte, once again tested positive for performance enhancing drugs. Now, as you recall, he did so against Oscar Rivas, tested
Hmm.
positive for Diana Ball, and the was the B sample was tested, and they said, yeah, the drugs are there, but we'll accept his excuse that maybe it's contamination since it's not a lot in there. And I was like, it's not about if it's a lot, it's that it's there at all. Diana Ball should not be in your system. So once again, he got caught cheating. He got off.
Hmm.
People tried to say he was innocent. Turns out he wasn't. Now, my favorite part is that he got his comeuppance against Alexander Povetkin with the uppercut heard around the world, knocked his ass
Hmm.
stiff, and then he
Hmm.
got popped again with what was going to be the biggest payday of his career. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. I'm just happy that he's finally been exposed. There's no one backing him up this time. There's no excuses. Even you, who are a hater of American boxers, and you love these British guys. Even you cannot defend Dillian Whyte. What do you guys say about that, Jr.?
This is, like I said, the third. What do you mean defending Dylan White? I've never been an advocate of Mr. Dylan White.
Listen, I remember you doing an experiment where you had a grain of salt in water, and you claim that this is Dillian Whyte's test.
No,
Okay?
that wasn't Dylan
And
White.
you claim this is Dillian Whyte's test. And now he's been proven to be a cheat once again.
First of all, that wasn't Dylan White. That is not true, and you know that is not true.
Hey man, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Listen, I'm happy that this fight got postponed. God forbid uh, someone would have been hurt like Joshua. I'm hoping that they can replace Dillian Whyte with somebody decent like Dempsey McKean. I see Otto Wallen threw his name in it. Maybe Philip Hergovich. Just replace the fight. It's not
Hmm.
like Dillian Whyte it was any great shakes anyway. This is at the O2 Arena. It's not like it was a stadium fight. So to me, he could have fought Joe Blow and it still would have sold well
Yeah,
versus Anthony Joshua.
it
So
did, Joshua.
just
Yep.
get a good replacement and let's keep it moving. And let's forget Dillian Whyte ever existed.
Yep. Well, pretty much like just scratch Dylan White over over this particular instance, and yes, there have been multiple fighters that have been discussed as potential opponents there for Anthony Joshua to fight there on August 12th on O2 Arena. You mentioned a number of them, and
Who's the one you're most interested in?
well, I have some potential news on this. I know that this probably will come up as an update tomorrow. But I did get in contact with a particular promoter that has dealt with Matchroom a few times, particularly the last couple of times with Matchroom's heavyweight main event.
Dimitri Salita.
Right? And I tried to hit him up in reference to, of course, him raising up potential opponents like Jarrell Miller and Otto Walling of such. And he said that he did give Matchroom a call, but they will give me an update on Monday. So he will be on the Boxing Source here on Monday as we will talk about,
Oh,
what.
that's a great get. That is a great get. Wow.
So he will, give us another and give us an update on, if he could line up one of his guys as an opponent there for Anthony Joshua for August 12th. Like you said, I mean, with it being Anthony Joshua, that's definite opportunity in getting some, very good money. One person though that I was very disappointed in, that entered his name in the hat, and you know who that particular person is because it looks like he is not willing to fight Mr. Deontay Wilder, and and that's Andy Ruiz Jr.
Yeah, something's wrong. What's wrong with him?
How you gonna make a post, a social media post tagging Anthony Joshua saying, "Hey man, we can have a trilogy now, man. What's going on?" I'm
And you
like,
know what's so funny? The
yo,
money that he would get for a third Joshua fight would be nothing compared to what he'll make for Wilder. Because first of all, the tickets are already sold for the Joshua fight. So it's not like they have to use his name to sell tickets.
yep,
So I don't understand what his angle is. Why does he think he'll get more money for
yep.
the Joshua fight? So if it's a fight you're gonna get more money for, you get to have a better build up. You're not just some fat replacement opponent.
Hmm.
Then why would you not go for that fight? I think he's just showing he has no interest in fighting Deontay Wilder at all.
Yeah, it just looks like that at this particular point, man. Having zero interest. Like I said, I mean that fight should have been signed at least weeks ago, or probably like a couple months ago, and we still haven't had any update in reference to a potential fight between Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz Jr. But like you said, with this particular event at the O2 Arena, like all the tickets have been sold, all the sponsorship things have been laid out, and everything like that. So the purses are right now at a locked rate or a fixed rate. So it's not like you're going to, get the same amount of money that you would get with a potential Deontay Wilder fight. And, depending on what the overall demand is for Andy Ruiz Jr., shoot, you wouldn't get as much as what Dillian Whyte would probably get, for this bout against Anthony Joshua. So,
Especially since White is a UK fighter, so it's probably more interest in two UK guys.
mhm.
Also, I haven't heard any interest in a third Andrew Ruiz fight. So come on,
Yeah,
what's he looking at? Like a couple $1 million? Like he could make a lot more
yeah.
than that fighting Deontay Wilder.
Yep, a lot more than that. Like at least like 5 million or so for fighting Deontay Wilder. So I'm like, why not go ahead and go for that fight there against Deontay Wilder instead of being in as a potential opponent for Anthony Joshua. Now I did talk about who could be there from Salida Promotions that could be a potential opponent. You did mention Dempsey McKean as another guy that's out there. I've also heard Derek Chisora or Gerald Washington, who would be part of that card that is scheduled for Saturday. So there's a number of fighters that are out there as potential opponents, for Anthony Joshua. It's just that they had they had this opportunity here for Joshua and White to go ahead and have a fight, and it just fell through, man. I mean, that's just it. Philip Hergovich is, like I said, another potential opponent. As of, this particular moment, I haven't heard from, my connect in reference to Philip Hergovich as Hergovich is trained by, one former fighter that, I talk with, on occasion or at least once a week or so. So we haven't necessarily had any updates if Philip Hergovich is going to be the opponent. He is was scheduled to fight Dempsey McKean on this card. So you did have a few fighters, that were out there as potential opponents there. So it is what it is. But man, if it's Derek Chisora, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm like, come on, man, this guy always gets these chances to be included in main events, man. I'm like, come on, man. This is wild. I mean, I know that you know people want to kind of like dismiss opponents for having one loss, but here's Derek Chisora that's still here with a career at 33-13 and losing like 4 of the last 5 fights. If he was a potential opponent, I'm like, come on, man, who would approve that as a fight there for Anthony Joshua? So I'm like, man, that's not quite it. Now, on the flip with Joshua, I mean, he definitely wants to get this fight in so that he has, as many fights as possible, particularly as a heavyweight, man. You don't really see uh, fighters, heavyweight fighters at that high level having like more than 2 fights a year. Now, I know here NVO, you mentioned this in reference to Anthony Joshua multiple times over the years that with him, while he was holding the titles, he only had like those 2 fights a year, which you don't really have time to fully develop as a fighter, especially when he, won a world title very early in his career. So, here at this point, it looks like he's, trying to get himself as active as possible, having these fights. One fight early in the year, one fight here in the summer, and then probably one more, before the end of the year. But this one right here, this is, potentially something where he's in danger of, not having a fight. But like you said, all those tickets are sold, so they're gonna have a fight one way or another, man. You know.
Yeah, and he needs to. Now, was this considered a dangerous fight for him, in your opinion?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this was something where he kind of like feels like he would be confident in defeating Dillian Whyte at this particular point of Dillian Whyte's career. That it would be something where like you said, he kind of like builds up his record, after having those losses to Alexander Usyk. So it would kind of like be at this point where it's like, we'll build up this record and have more confidence, see if he could implement more things while being under the tutelage of Derek James, and just have this here against Dylan White. Yeah, I'd say that was just a confidence builder because I mean, look, Dylan White, had the thing there, like I said, with getting knocked out by Povetkin in 2020. He had the whole thing with him having that rematch, but then still lost to Tyson Fury by TKO, and then had the fight against Jermaine Franklin late last year, where a number of
In
people
a fight where he should have lost, because that was bullshit.
so so that is where I kind of see where Joshua would say, hey man, let's go ahead and have this fight with Dylan White, you know build this up, see what I've been doing here with a few more months under Derek James, and see if I'm been more versatile, or have learned more as a fighter, especially there in the heavyweight division, because we got that potential super fight that could happen at the end of the year, or by January there with Deontay Wilder. So I say, hey man, that would have been something for Anthony Joshua to get more in the bag there, so to speak. So it was like, hey, he was in the gym, had the fight against Jermaine Franklin, then had this thing here, so he's like right back in the gym or whatever it is, as far as like fully training. So he's kind of been out there in Dallas, Texas, to a certain extent, being there with Derek James, but he wanted to have this fight and had get this fight going. So and a number of y'all saw Anthony Joshua out there in the camp while Errol Spence Jr. was preparing for his fight against Terrence Crawford, but that's still he's still out there, or was out there for a couple more weeks before heading out to the UK. But that's another thing too, though, with Joshua, that some people would probably wanted to find out. Given that Derek James had all of those fighters, I mean, this would have been what Derek James's third fight within what, a 4 or 5 week time period.
That's what I was curious about.
Yeah,
Because I don't know if you remember, but when Eddie Reynoso started taking on a lot of fighters, it was like each fighter couldn't get the attention that they wanted. So you had a lot of his fighters ended up losing, and you had a lot of his fighters ended up leaving him. You had Louis Neary leaving. You had Andy Ruiz leaving. He still was Julio Cesar Martinez, but he didn't look great. Frank Sanchez hasn't looked impressive. Oscar Valdez got fucking smoked. So you have to wonder what's the outcome of like, yeah, you're a trainer, yeah, you're a great trainer, but are you taking on too much at one time, and are you able to devote the amount of attention it takes
Hmm.
to build your fighter to a championship level? I mean, I
Yep.
think you saw with Errol Spence losing, you saw Frank Martin with a lackluster performance.
Hmm.
Um, and then he's taking on even Joshua in his last fight. It didn't look overly impressive, you know. And then he also has Ryan Garcia. So
Yep.
you have to wonder, is Derek James spreading himself too thin, or is he reading his own press clippings and thinking he's the man, he's the great trainer, and the craft is suffering?
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. You had this. This is like a duplicate of what happened last year. To a certain extent. The only thing was Frank Martin at least had to win. But last year you had Oscar Valdez last April facing Shakur Stevenson. Ended up losing, big to Shakur Stevenson. And then, a few weeks later you had Canelo Alvarez losing to Dimitri Bivol there in Las Vegas. And, you fast forward to this year, you have Frank Martin against Artem Hartunian, goes through about wins by decision, but it was a very very hard fight for him to get through. And then weeks later, you have Errol Spence Jr. that pretty much got washed up by Terrence Crawford in a performance where you never seen Errol Spence perform like that in any of
Completely
his.
lackluster. And
Yeah.
honestly, it seemed like Derek James was undressed by Bomac. You saw Bomac, he didn't have to make adjustments. He came in with an A1 game plan that
Mhm.
completely, it seemed like uh, Derek James did not expect it at all. But for me, when you're preparing your fighter for the biggest fight of his career, which Errol Spence was in, that was the biggest fight of his career, you got to be prepared for everything. And I
Yeah.
just didn't feel that coming from the Spence corner and from Derrick James. So I do wonder, is this the curse of the trainer of the year? Is Derrick James maybe not the greatest trainer, and he had just two absolute studs in his charge, or is he not devoting enough time to each guy?
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is that the more fighters that you have under your belt, the less time that you have with each of these fighters. Um, the thing is, like Errol Spence, he's been with Errol Spence since the beginning of Spence's career, so you had all of that time there with Errol Spence that you pretty much built something up with him. But then you add in, like a Jamel Charlo who, came from the camp of Coach Ronnie Shields. Like for majority of Jamel Charlo's career, he was up there with Ronnie Shields, and then like a few years ago, he goes up with Derek James. So you have that, and then like I said, with Frank Martin too, and then you add in Anthony Joshua, you add in Ryan Garcia. That's like five people there that you definitely lead a lot of time with because these guys are fighting in high level or semi high level fights. Here at their particular points of their career. So is Derek James going to be able to have that type of dedication to all of those fighters? And we've already seen there with Eddie Reynoso that it's very difficult to do so there with the number of fighters that he's had, under his tutelage. So we got to see like how Derek James is gonna, handle this from this point forward. Given that, well, we'll see what happens with Anthony Joshua. If there's going to be or if we have the replacement opponent named out there. Like I said, we had the potential names out there. Those that are part of this card, of course, Derek Chisora, Gerald Washington, Dempsey McKean, and then Philip Hergovich. And like I said, you also have guys that are part of Salida Promotions that could be potential opponents. And like I said earlier, we'll have an update on that with Dimitri Salida as he will be talking with me tomorrow in reference to that, as he has contacted Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing and trying to get one of his fighters to step in as an opponent there for Anthony Joshua. But I mean that kind of goes into what what happens here in the sport of boxing. But hey, Dylan White, man, you you out here you out here blowing your chances, man. And it's almost like you got people all excited, like Jarrell Miller, who was supposed to be an opponent for Anthony Joshua, but tested positive for a banned substance. He's out here, talking a lot of trash now, as he just recently, got back into the fight game after that particular positive test, and he's saying that he would want to come in as an opponent too. But like that just makes it for a wild situation there in the UK, as you have, like I said, the former unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua now without a fight at this particular point. Shout out to Bruce Gas and Juice here, listening live on the chat, and everybody that's subscribed here to the Boxing Source, man, and all of that. So we got had to drop that in as far as like potential opponents. We'll see if we get any updates on that there for Anthony Joshua, as he wants to see about getting as many fights as possible in there for this year. Try to get as active as possible. What we'll see about that. I know that in other boxing news you had, of course, we're coming off of the previous week with Terrence Crawford defeating Errol Spence Jr. to become the undisputed welterweight champion. We had, what was it, the Showtime All Access epilogue that was on Showtime on the YouTube channel. It seems like it's approaching 1 million views already there, which is crazy. It's like all of this stuff was trending and all of that. So definitely looks like Terrence Crawford is becoming one of those guys that is slowly becoming, well, I say slowly becoming, but will become a boxing star. And I've kind of been hearing about what his potential opponent could be, man. Some people were talking about Jamel Charlo, but he got Canelo problems. You know what I'm saying? And maybe a rematch there with Errol Spence in December. Terrence Crawford did mention that in one of those interviews, that it could be Errol Spence in a rematch in December there. So I mean, you definitely have options there to choose from if you're Terrence Crawford. It's just that right now he's basically at the top of the world, so he could pretty much fight like whoever he wants. It looks like, and it could be ended up good for him. But we'll see what happens there with Terrence Crawford, man. Real quick, MVO, like coming off of Terrence Crawford's win, like what do you think his moves could be though? Well, looks like MVO might be deep in the karaoke room or whatever it is, man. He hasn't gotten back on yet, but like I said, man, the thing with Crawford, scoring that TKO win over Errol Spence, and still they're undefeated now, 40-0. It's like sky's the limit there for Terrence Crawford, and it seems like from the point that they were starting to build the fight up until now, the popularity of Terrence Crawford is kind of gone up big time. So we'll see what happens here from this point forward. How he's going to be viewed as a not only a star but a superstar in this particular case, man. So
Who we talking about? Terrence Crawford?
yeah, we're talking about Terrence
Yeah,
Crawford.
I apologize. I'm in between drinks. My bad. But I think Bud has a chance to be a crossover superstar. He saw what the other side is fighting like. He's never been treated this way before. He had the red carpet rolled out for him. He knows what it's now like to be with a first class outfit, and I think he liked the taste of that. So I think he's going to be all in. And if it's me, I don't want nothing but big fights for Bud. Like, I want to see Keith Thurman. I want to see the Spence rematch. I want to see Charlo. That's it. I don't want to see Boots. Sorry, kid. Wait your turn, kid. I'm sure you're a great fighter. I'm sure you'll be a worthy challenger. Gotta wait your turn, kid. Sorry, Stanionis. You're a great fighter, but No one can spell your name, let alone pronounce your name. Most people don't even know where Lithuania is at. So sorry, Staniotis, you don't get to fight either. Sorry, Cody Crawley, nobody knows you. We just want to see Bud in the big fights and the big fights only, and I feel like that is the track that he's on because he was talking real hot shit on Hot 97. He only wants big fights,
Yeah.
so that's what we want to see. For me, and maybe this is just me sounding delusional or like an idiot, but if it's up to me, you have Bud do the Spence rematch,
Mhm.
and then sometime next year, maybe during the summer or maybe during the fall, you have Terrence Bud Crawford versus Javante Tank Davis.
Now that of course Tank Davis is mentioned as a opponent or a potential opponent for someone else, but that someone else would have been coming up to face Javante Tank Davis. That is Naoya Inoue, but no one has mentioned Tank Davis and Terrence Crawford. And there was one point where I think it was after was it the Tank Davis versus Isaac Cruz fight or something like that, where they had Leonard Ellaby up there, and someone asked a question in reference to maybe having a fight between Tank Davis and Terrence Crawford, and Leonard Ellaby basically said Tank Davis is a 135-pound fighter. Terrence Crawford is a 147-pound fighter. It's basically like completely dismissing that fight from remotely happening. So I know that I got MVO is here for big events, for big fights, and all that type of stuff. So those ideas are pretty much within the mind of MVO. But as far as like overall possibilities of something like that happening, yeah, nah, I don't see it.
Hey, I didn't
Right,
hear nobody saying that Jamel Charlo versus Canelo was a possibility before.
right, yeah, yeah.
Okay, people got to use their imagination. We cannot be slaves to weight classes. We cannot do that. We cannot keep thinking weight class, weight class, weight class, weight class, weight class. We have to think big event, big event, big event. What's the big fight? What do the fans want to see? What is going to bring the hoes out? Okay, Terrence Crawford versus Tank Davis brings the hoes out.
Yeah, but I mean, but we also do have to see what happens here with Jamel Charlo. Of course, Jamel Charlo was there, pretty much like ringside to see, Terrence Crawford's win over Errol Spence Jr. But like I said, I mean, you had those events, with Jamel Charlo facing Canelo Alvarez on September 30th. Um, that's a big event. Now, for me, and I know that we talked about that plan there for Terrence Crawford. Um, Now it is contingent on him or what happens with Jamel Charlo. Now, if Jamel Charlo, by any reason, defeats Canelo Alvarez on September 30th, then that would mean he would have a rematch against Canelo Alvarez in 2024. So that kind of like that would eliminate fight with Terrence Crawford. So what else would potentially be out there? I know you said Keith Thurman after this rematch with Errol Spence, but I mean, if there's like any chance to like get money, like would there be any remote shot of Terrence Crawford facing Tim Zoo, whether it's in the U.S. or in Australia? Maybe that could be a possibility, but I'm like, who knows, man? It depends on if Australia got money to try to bring Terrence Crawford over there to, Australia or whatnot. But that I mean, that still is a possibility, especially if Jamel Charlo does what some might say the unthinkable and defeats Canelo Alvarez. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure what the status of Canelo Alvarez is at this point of his professional career. So don't write it out. I'm gonna just say that. Don't write it out. Right? Now, once again, shout out to those that are, here joining in. Wanted to, jump back on this joint, man. Um, Hey, I finally see this joint here with MVO's post where he says he may have to update the curious case of Dillian White, right? And it is a extended post in reference to the timeline for Dillian White from 2015 up until 2018 and up like to this particular point. If you add in Dillian White's fights against against Alexander Povetkin, so that's definitely a extended read. If MVO is interested in editing that particular article, we may see about having it posted on the boxingsource.net. That would be something there to consider. Um, Now, a Sid here from the UK, man, he says in reference to the Tim Tszyu potential fight between Tim Tszyu and Terrence Crawford, he said, "Be major money in Australia, definitely 10 million for Terrence Crawford." Well, hey, I mean, he made at least 10 million in his fight against Errol Spence Jr. So, I mean, if that's another bag that Terrence Crawford wants to chase, if they have that offer out there, then yeah, I'd say why not go ahead and go for it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, back on the thing there with with Dillian White, man. Like MVO said, like Dillian White has had many opportunities to become the mandatory challenger for a heavyweight title, and he says the number of times that he could have been WBC mandatory and IBF mandatory. So that kind of like goes into the past of Dillian White, and fast forward to now, like look at this, here and what happened with Dillian White's adverse testing that was reported yesterday, and now it's like, he might be basically, out of the paint. You know what I'm saying? So I mean that's the thing there with Dillian White. We might have another guest here to try to get in on this conversation here in a bit, man. But yeah, like I said, man, Dillian White. I mean, you definitely had your shots. You had your thing in reference to trying to get in position for some of these fights, and then you had your win over Alexander Povetkin to finally get a shot at a world title fight there against Tyson Fury last year, and you pretty much got beat up. You got beat up by Tyson Fury, man. So there's that. All right, then the next guest joining in to join the conversation here real quick is the boxing academic, man.
What's going on, fellas? Before anyone says anything, I just want to say, Matt, MVO, no one else is on the show, so you can be nice to me today. You don't have to feel any pressure to, show out in front of other people. You can be nice since there's no one else on the show except for JR.
Oh man, yeah, he's basically in the middle in the bar in the middle of two white claws.
Hey, you listen here clearly, boxing academic. Okay. The last time you were on
Damn,
a
man, that kind
program
of hurt
that
my
I was
feelings,
on,
man.
I gave you your flowers, but now you want to come at me sideways. You know what? Well, I'm going to take those flowers, turn them some bit sideways, and stick them straight up your candy ass. Okay? Now it's war. Now it's war.
That kind of hurt my feelings, Matt.
I apologize, man. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I'm just playing. I'm
Oh, I
sorry.
appreciate it. Word on the street, you got two white women to your left and right over there.
Not tonight. Tonight is a slow night. Tonight is a slow night. I'll just say that. I'll say that and say that only.
Well, how
But
about this? You get rid of your high standards and talk to that Asian woman that's over there in your corner, the left corner of your eye.
Listen, my man. Listen. First of all, I got a lazy eye, so everyone's in the left corner of my eye. Second of all, I ain't really interested in that.
That's what I'm
Oh,
telling you. Let your standards go, man. You know,
yeah,
you
you got
gotta
yeah,
give
lower your
everybody opportunity.
I don't
gotta
have
lower
any
your
standards.
oh man. Yeah, that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible, man. Yo, back to academic. You wanted to jump in on the conversation reference to Dylan White?
I mean, I'm only saying this. I'm saying this in jest. Let me say that. But the old adage is, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So we could judge him, but this is if he loses his fight with Anthony Joshua, he ain't gonna get no another fight with Anthony Joshua. So is it right? No, it's not right. However, I can understand why he did it.
Eh, or like what was it? Bobby Heenan or whatever it is. Say, win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. I guess that is what you may mean there in reference to Dylan White. But the thing about this is too, like, I mean, this would be Dylan White's like last shot at even trying to come close to being a contender there in the heavyweight division. And as long as the top of that heavyweight division is still locked up there with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, I mean, this is like outside of Wilder, this is the next biggest fight that anybody could make there, and that's against Anthony Joshua. But
Which is why I'm sorry.
yo, go ahead.
Which is why I'm saying I can understand it's not right. Let me not condone. I'm not condoning any cheating, but I can understand why he did it. Because, like you said, this is his last shot. You only get one more shot, but at this level, at that high level, unless somebody gonna use you as a stepping stone, like for a Jared Anderson or something. But at the level, at that A level above all them guys, I can understand why he did it. It ain't right, but I can understand why. The man is probably desperate.
No, that's a fact. That is definitely a fact. But at the end of the day, you gotta play fair,
Hmm.
and also like he's been playing fast and loose with PEDs since before he started boxing, or he was a kickboxer. Let's be honest. It's not his first time, not even his second time. Okay, it's really his third or fourth time of this count kickboxing. So this is a guy who has been a drug cheat his whole career. He's gotten away with his whole career, and now the chickens have finally come home to roost, and it is what it is, man.
That, and that's the thing about it, man. Shout out to shout out to someone that hasn't been on the show for a good little while, man. World ranked in the building, man. Good that you were able to join in here for this particular podcast, man.
Well,
Uh,
Ray, who ran you off this show, man? What happened to you? We forgot your name existed, man. Who ran you off the show, man? Tell
yeah,
tell me so I can make sure they don't come back on the show again, man.
yeah, I don't know, man. Like he had been definitely a ghost there for a good little minute, but hasn't necessarily got back on here for a bit. But thankful that he was able to join in here on this current conversation or whatever it is. So um but yeah, back here with the Dylan White joint, it looks like recent article was posted out where Dylan White says that uh, he had posted on Twitter saying that I can confirm without a shadow of doubt that I have not taken the reported substance in this camp or any point of my life. He said, this is not the first time that I have been reported as having an adverse finding for a substance which I have not taken. And as I did last time, I will again prove that I'm completely innocent. Does this mean like he's trying to go with that other adverse finding that took place before his fight against Oscar Rivas? Because yeah, I don't know about that. Uh,
I mean, it ain't his fault. It's probably the Mexican beef. He probably was eating whatever Canelo was eating, and just got in the system. Just didn't they raise the level anyway? So he should have been fine.
I think they did something in reference to raising those levels, but yeah, that response was you know that response was on his post here, man. Um, like he says the fight was canceled without having, with him having any chance to demonstrate his innocence before that. He claims that he said he insisted on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week VADA testing for the fight, and that he's done, voluntarily and at his own expense. For all of my when he said I insisted on 24/7 body testing for this fight as I have done voluntarily and at my own expense for all of my fights for many, many years. Well,
That's pretty
okay.
admirable. Speaking of testing, I mean, this wouldn't have mattered, but did Crawford and Spence not have testing in their fight?
uh like you know what? I really didn't much know about it. Let me see here, man. They had to have some type of testing, man. At least, VADA would, kind of, they would kind of put it up there, if that would be on there, but I'll check, man, because usually they have it, before and then they have it after, you know what I mean? But up to this particular point, man, I haven't seen anything where they've entered the program or whatever. So I haven't seen anything yet. I see something in reference to Devin Haney or Anthony Joshua or Joe Joyce or Zalay Zhang or even Tyson Fury, but yeah, I haven't seen anything in reference to the Spence Crawford thing. But hey, who knows?
Gotcha.
But yeah, the latest post from VADA was about Tyson Fury, and that was on August 2nd. So, that would be that. Shout out to Ottery Pennant here on the live chat. Hey,
It
Anthony,
looks like people are about to start singing, so I'm gonna have to go.
hold on. What was that?
It looks like people are about to start singing, so I'm gonna have to go.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Thinking what?
Oh, repeat that. Oh, he's off. He had to roll out.
They about to sing what?
I guess he was about to be on the mic there for karaoke, man.
Why he
So
didn't keep the phone up there so we can hear him?
well, because well, I'm already not he probably getting much advertising for this, but if he had like actual music on there, it would flag the page.
Oh, okay.
So that's that. But back to what Addery was saying here on the chat, like once again for those like just joining in, I did speak with Jarrell Miller's promoter, Demetrius Salida Promotions, and he said that he did get in contact with Matchroom, and that was trying to get an update as to what he could work out for at least one of his fighters, whether it is Jarrell Miller or Otto Wallin or any one of those other fighters that he has there on Salida Promotions. Like I mentioned before, I mean, Salida was able to work, having a Jermaine Franklin, on to face Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua, within a span of what 5 months or so, so maybe he would have one of those guys that be able to step in. A number of fighters that are out there still on the card. Like I said, Derek Chisora, Gerald Washington, Philip Hergovich, and Dempsey McKean could also be guys that he could have as replacement opponents there. Particularly there with the Philip Hergovich or the Dempsey McKean, because both of those guys are 6'6". So that would definitely be something to kind of like have there on as a replacement fight as one of those guys there against Anthony Joshua. That would kind of like be a good little scrap there. But with the thing like I mentioned before with Philip Hergovich, I would have to get in contact with someone in reference to him potentially being an opponent because Philip Hergovich's trainer uh, is going to be out there over in the UK. So, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to have a live show on Tuesday in reference to talking about it, but I'll see about getting news in reference to that. So we'll continue to check on that and see if Hergovich could be an opponent there for Anthony Joshua in reference to that. Yeah, I kind of like said that it could be, either Derek Chisora or Gerald Washington. Who that fight, Chisora Washington was recently added on the card. Like a few days ago, so that could be the thing there. My thing was, man, I was just hoping that it wouldn't be Derek Chisora, man. Like, I mean, he already had like like he already been in there against Tyson Fury. I mean, that was his last fight, there against Tyson Fury, man. But now, if he was able to get off this fight with Gerald Washington and end up fighting Anthony Joshua, I'm like, man, that's definitely a bag for him, man.
I think he beats Gerald Washington. If I think he catches Gerald Washington.
Yeah, I would have to see like where Gerald Washington is at this particular point, of his career. I know that he, lost what 3 of his last 4 fights, or like 4 of his, well, a good amount of fights. Ever since the loss to Deontay Wilder, he's lost what 4 of his last 6.
Probably by knockout too, huh?
Yep, all of them by knockout or stoppage. Yep,
People ain't the same. That punch resistance go.
So the thing is too that I gotta check if he Gerald Washington was there with Malik Scott. So Malik Scott could be there as his trainer. Now
Who trainer?
Gerald Washington's trainer.
Oh, so he a sparring partner for Wilder.
Well, pretty much like off and on. Yes, now, yeah.
Shit, that's probably why he getting knocked out, because he getting hit every day by Wilder.
And yes, world ranked Washington did beat Robert Helenius. That was his one win that he's had in the last 4 fights. Was the stoppage win over Robert Helenius in 2019. So that has basically been his only win up to this point. And even with the Robert Helenius fight, like that was a close fight. That was a close, pretty even fight up until that point of the stoppage. And I just got like word that there is a chance that Philip Hergovich could be the replacement opponent there for Anthony Joshua.
Didn't he get knocked out?
Who, Philip Hergovich? No, he was the one that ended up winning the fight there against Zhilei Zhang.
Oh, okay. He kind of gassed out though, but he was landing some good shots.
He was landing some good shots, but both of those guys were gassed out. But that was the co-feature to that Joshua Usyk rematch. So yeah,
Anthony Joshua should definitely win that fight.
So yeah, we'll see. If that I have to ask if Coach Ronnie Shields will be on live on YouTube on Tuesday, or if he's going to already be out there in the UK. So I'll check here in a bit on that. But yeah, I mean, there's still like a number of like I said, a number of fighters that could potentially be the opponent. Like MVO had basically said though, since the tickets are already sold and all the sponsorships and everything has been locked in, like there's only a limited choice there for them to kind of like pick an opponent, because the purses are already set. So you can only go as high as what maybe Dillian Whyte was going to be able to get in this particular match. So that's why the 4 heavyweights that are currently on the card have been already mentioned as potential opponents. And then, like I said, Jarrell Miller or maybe Ottawa Lane could be in as an opponent, but they still have to make those arrangements to have them be flown in to the UK and have them be properly prepared for that fight. So that's the thing on that, man. Um, I talked about a couple of other things there, reference to Terrence Crawford, what his potential fights could be. So for those that missed that part, y'all could go back on that. We got coming up on August 12th, as Juice in the chat mentioned earlier. You got Oscar Valdez versus Emmanuel Navarrete. That's going to be a really really good battle there at the 130-pound division. You had like I said, former champion there, Oscar Valdez, former champion 126 and at 130, going up against Navarrete, who's won the belts at 122, 126, and is the current WBO champion. So that's going to be a very good action fight that's going to take place there on August 12th. So definitely have that as one part of the card. And we'll have a few other fights that'll be included in that there. That's going to be presented by Top Rank. So definitely want to check that one out. You also have Emmanuel Rodriguez there. That's going to be facing Melvin Lopez. That's going to be around my neck of the woods there, MGM National Harbor. I will be there in the building for that. The co-feature fight is Gary Antoine Russell versus Kent Cruz. So Gary Antoine Russell, coming off of a shoulder injury, there finally recovered from that. So he's facing Kent Cruz there in the 140-pound division. So you definitely have a good number of action-packed fights that will take place on August 12th. That we're definitely looking forward to. So definitely want to say that, hey man, we're back at it when it comes to these fights, man. And also like back to the thing there with the Top Rank card that's going to be in Arizona. You got Ray Murataya that's going to be in action. Richard Torres, a heavyweight, is going to be in action. Emiliano Vargas is going to be in action too. So you got a number of guys that are unbeaten that will be featured in that fight card. So definitely what we have in reference to the sport of boxing, definitely have a number of fighters that will be going in the battle there in reference to that. Yeah, I know that we had what was it, a fight card on Saturday, that had Jake Paul and Nate Diaz there, but that was also the thing where we had Amanda Serrano that was in action. You also had Deja Green that was in action, in that fight card, that they were able to, score wins. Deja Green, got a decision win. Amanda Serrano got a decision win, for that undisputed featherweight title there. So definitely had a good amount of action there at Dallas. So, I like to see what the numbers were for that, because we were talking about that in the previous conversations on this channel and other channels, if that particular event would have a good number of pay-per-view buys. So that remains to be seen. Question in reference to Anthony Joshua versus Luis Ortiz thing. And I have no idea what's going on with Luis Ortiz, man. No one really knows. Ever since his bout with with Andy Ruiz Jr., we haven't really heard much from him since. So I couldn't really even give you a good guess as to what would happen there with Luis Ortiz, man. Had that unanimous decision loss to Ruiz last year. And ever since then, nobody has really even heard about Luis Ortiz even having any potential bouts, man. So I mean that could be something up, man. Yeah, a tip. If you're just getting in, the thing is, I said that Demetrius Alita did call Matchroom in reference to potential opponents. He will give me an update on that tomorrow. Reference to who could be a potential opponent for Anthony Joshua that he has. Of course, he's had Jermaine Franklin in there to face Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua. So, it's not much for him to, get on the phone and get in contact with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing, and as far as like offering fighters out there, but that's the thing with Jarrell Miller though. Would Jarrell Miller step in and go ahead and face Anthony Joshua for the fixed rate that would be out there for the purse of that fight against Anthony Joshua? If it's anything more than what Dillian Whyte was going to get, then that's not going to work, because everything has been, all the tickets have been sold, all the sponsorships have been laid down, every advertising thing is, been done, whatever, the zone has already put in the money or whatnot. That's already been done. So, and that's if they say like, hey, Jarrell Miller could do it for, this amount of money and see if they go for it. And, who knows? But like I said, I'm going to see if I could I'm going to try to see if I could have Demetrius Salita on live tomorrow afternoon. And then he'll be able to be on here on the YouTube channel to discuss what is been going on as far as like getting one of his opponents on there for fighting Anthony Joshua. So we're gonna see how that gonna work out. So y'all be on the lookout for that. Tune in, and we'll get as as many updates as we possibly can and see who would be Joshua's opponent come August 12th. That's definitely something there. Like I said, I mean, Joshua wants to get in as many fights as possible this year. As a heavyweight, you really see heavyweights in the high level have multiple fights, or at least more than 2 fights a year. I mean, look at what's going down right now. You got Tyson Fury that's facing Francis Ngannou, and that's not until October. That's going to be his only fight that's out there is going to be against Francis Ngannou in October. That's wild. You know what I'm saying? And Alexander Usyk, only has his fight coming up at the end of this month, against Daniel Dubois. And Deontay Wilder hasn't had a fight this year yet, So, it's crazy, man. And yeah, like you said, man, he definitely need a lot more heavyweight fights in boxing. Like we haven't had that many, out there, especially at the top level, man. We definitely haven't had that. With all of the good fights that we've been having this year in 2023, the heavyweight division at the top, we really haven't seen much action out there. So, I mean, that's something that has to be dealt with. You know what I'm saying? But that's mainly what I have here for this particular episode, man. Like I said, I'll do a coverage for the fight card over at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. There, like I said, you have Gary Antoine Russell being part of the co-feature bout as he will face Kent Cruz, and the main event there is going to be Emmanuel Rodriguez versus Melvin Lopez for the vacant IBF bantamweight title. You also have Trayvon Marshall going up against Gabriel Maestre. Yes, that Gabriel Maestre that had the controversial decision win over Michael Fox in 2021. So we'll see how this fight card is going to shape up, and it will be on live on Showtime. Actually, we have some folks that haven't fought in a good little minute, some notable fighters. You're gonna have Jose Benavidez Jr. that'll be on the card. Hasn't fought since the loss to Danny Garcia. You got Marcus Brown that hasn't fought since his loss to Artur Beterbiev there. So you're gonna have a number of other notable names that'll be part of that fight card at the MGM Grand Garden Arena on Saturday night. So that's what we got there. But big thanks to everybody that's joining in, the Boxing Academic for joining in this conversation, the MDO for joining in this conversation, And everybody that's been part of the live chat, anyone that's just jumping in right now, you can hit the replay to get the news that we talked about in reference to Dillian Whyte failing the drug test or having an adverse finding there from VADA, and that he's pretty much scrapped out of it. Like there's no point where he could state his case or anything like that. Nope, they said nah, this it. So now looks like they're looking for an opponent for Anthony Joshua, and I've had those reports. Like multiple fighters have been said to be his potential opponent, but we'll see. But with that being said, that is the end of this particular episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. Once again, I thank y'all for joining in live. Like I said, the end of every show, folks, point of boxing is to hit, not get hit, not to stand and trade. On that note, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.